Welcome back to the Demon Slayer Gaming Channel. Today we're going to be going over some basic team building and Wuthering waves. Now this is going to be a beginner guide for the casuals. This is to help you get started. We are not going to be getting into the nitty gritty and the try hard part of the game. This is to make sure that you're starting off correctly and that you're able to accomplish what you need to accomplish in the beginning of the game to help you get to the later part of the game where you may want to begin trying harder. So, starting off, the basic team building is going to be one main DPS, one sub DPS or special unit, and then a support or special unit. And I'll go over what those all mean here in just a moment. But primarily your objective is going to be to use your two of your units in the team to buff up your main DPS, and then that is who you're going to be spending most of your time playing as and defeating units as, and throughout most of the game that is going to be the easiest way to play and is going to be the most efficient way to play. Now there is getting into the swap canceling and all that stuff, and during boss fights that takes a lot more brain power for those that are not wanting to get too sweaty into the game. It's a lot easier to kind of stick with what I'm going to describe to you and then just develop your skills as you play and then start adding in the swaps and all that stuff. But to begin with, so what is a main DPS, a sub DPS, support, or special unit? So starting off for our main DPSs, we have characters that benefit being on the field for a long period of time and have a little bit higher damage ratios than some of the other characters. And then also their outro abilities are pure damage based abilities. So they're not benefiting anyone else by swapping off of the field. So examples of this are going to be Havoc Rover, Calcharo, Encore, Gian, Ying, not what's his name? Oh my god, that's killing me that I can't remember his name. Danjin, Chixia, Ling Yang. There we go. Tiger Boy. And then our new character coming up, Jinxia, is looking like she is going to be one of the 1.1 characters that is going to be a main DPS. This is the only one that in this list that is currently like kind of up for debate because she, without her full release kit, we don't know if she'll actually belong in this group. But as far as the rest of these units go, each of them prioritizes doing damage, as much damage as possible. Some of them in a shorter time frame, some of them want to stay on the field for a very long time, and then their outros are purely damage oriented. Only one that is a little bit different from this is Danjin. Danjin is a very strong main DPS character, but can be used as a support character because of her outro ability that does buff the havoc damage of the next character. But her single target, her damage potential from her kit is so strong that she can go either main DPS or sub DPS. Yinlin is also one that is debatable where she could be main DPS or sub DPS. If you want a player like that, you are welcome to. I am not saying that just because I'm putting them in this group that this is where they have to belong, but she does benefit the most by buffing another character with her outro ability afterwards. So what's going to be our sub DPSs? Our sub DPSs accomplish their jobs almost all very quickly. They are able to come onto the field, do what they need to do, and then switch off of the field rather quickly so that you can get to your main DPS character. Because again, these characters are going to be trying to buff one of these ones up here. So they have a bit higher energy regeneration, whether that's just because their abilities are more spammable or they generate higher concerto energy, different things like that. but it's a bit easier to generate their outros on these characters than it is the ones up here. They're usually a stronger DPS than your support or special base characters, but they fall a little behind on the main DPS. And then their outro skills all have a buffing capability to them that will buff the next character that comes onto the field for 15 seconds or until they are the character is swapped out. So you will keep the buff from this character once you swap to the next one for 15 seconds or until you swap again. So that's why it's good to keep the main DPS on the field for at least that 15 seconds once you swap from the sub DPS. So that gives your main DPS the most field time. Now our support characters, these are ones that currently our two support characters do provide the only healing that we have in the game, other than a very limited like sword based healing that we're seeing people use Yang Yang for, but they are the only ones that provide healing for your team, and they also provide amazing buffs that last across the entire team for 30 seconds. So these are not essential that you put in your team, but they will boost your efficiency tremendously by using them. So again, your general team makeup should be a main DPS for sure, followed with either a sub DPS or a special unit, and then a support or a special unit. Now, these special units, what do I mean by them being special, is they don't fall under the exact category of any of these. Their DPS is a little bit lackluster compared to most of the main DPSs up here. They do not offer abilities that give buffs to the next character, but they do something completely individual that no other character does. So for Spectral Rover is going to drop the 3-second slow time on the field whenever you swap from her. This makes it very easy to get counters or dodging, things like that. So she's very good for providing support in that way. And then we have our lightning boy here. What's his name? I can't even remember. Haven't started building him yet and using him. Yanwu. Yanwu is all about reducing the vibration strength of the enemy. So the little shield that you have to break through to eventually break the enemy so that they get stunned, all of his abilities and his outro, ultimate, all that stuff deals very high vibration strength reduction. So if your goal is purely to break the enemy so that you have the most time to damage them, and with your main DPS, he is a very, very strong character for that. But again, he does not actually buff the next character at all. So this should be the general makeup for your teams. Like based on the characters that I have, you want to be looking at who you want to be playing as your main DPS. So I have Jian and I have Havoc Rover as my two main DPSs. I picked a sub DPS that benefits each of them. So Mortefi is going to buff your heavy attacks whenever you switch from him with using his outro skill. And Danjin is going to buff the havoc damage of the next character that comes in when you switch from her. So both of them benefit the characters that they're with. Verena is again going to provide the team-wide healing and team-wide damage buffs. So this is going to be damage buffs from her, damage buffs from him, all going into Jian. So it makes the time that I'll be playing Jian very, very strong. And again, same thing with Bai Zi. Bai Zi provides the only healing for the character that is currently on the field, but will buff the damage of that character also, along with Danjin providing the Havoc damage bonus, then all that being funneled into Havoc Rover for just some incredible damage. Now, for the Echo recommendations for whenever you're running your teams, I'm going to have an entirely different video for Echoes individually, but I would recommend that you use the 4-3-3-1-1 combination on your support and sub DPS. And this is to make sure that they are getting as much energy regen as possible, because you want to have... I don't have energy regen on these ones yet. I'm still farming for it. Do I have any here? I do. You want to have as much energy regen as possible. So you're literally able to switch onto them, do a couple abilities, take just a couple seconds of time on the field, and then switch to your main DPS where you're going to be staying and doing as much damage as possible. So running the double energy regen is going to be imperative to allow you to do that for these characters. So your support DPS or your special type unit, and then your sub DPS or your special unit should both be running the 4-3-3-1-1 so that they can get the double energy regen. Once I have it, I will love it for this character, but I do not. The double energy regen from the 3 cost units, the 3 cost echoes. Your main DPS can run the 4-3-3-1-1 if you have the correct elemental damage bonuses on the elemental sets. That will give you the most amount of damage. If you do not have that, do not fret about it, especially being a casual or free to play. Just do the 4-4-1-1-1. Get you 2 very easily farmable, like crit rate, crit damage pieces, and just destroy 90% of the game that way. The only time that you really need to start cracking down and making sure that you're having the absolute most damage and best stats is for the very end game content that nobody should really be trying to focus on right now anyways. Those level 100 bosses are not made to be defeated by level 50, 60 teams. They're meant to have characters that are level 70, 80, 90, like getting closer to the level, actually taking them down. So if you're going to be a casual player or a free to play player, it's a lot easier to focus on those things once you get closer to their level and not worry about them right now. And you're going to cause yourself way more headache trying to take those things down and build the type of teams that you need to do so when you can just do it much easier later on. So whenever you're playing, generally let's go to a hologram and do a very low level one just to kind of show the general idea of what you should be doing. I want to take on Tempest Memphis. And I hate Morning Ikes. I'm just being picky at this point. Let's go take on the Heron. Why not? So we're just going to show a very low level one, and then show kind of what I like to do. The only thing that you need to be watching whenever you're first starting out to make it easiest as possible on yourself is going to be your concerto bar. Your concerto bar is going to be the circle that is next to your HP. As you can see now on Gian here, it is completely full. Mortefi is almost completely empty, and Verena is almost completely empty also. So starting off for things like this, what you want to do is start in your sub DPS character, and when you start the fight, you're just going to rotate through the abilities very quickly to build as much concerto energy as possible, and then you're going to swap to your support type character and then rotate their abilities, and then swap back to your sub DPS and rotate their abilities again. You're just trying to build the concerto energy as quickly as possible. So there I made sure to swap off of Mortefi right before he maxed out his concerto energy, because we do not want him providing his outro ability for us right now. Now we are almost maxed on Verena here, so we can very easily go from Verena 2 more Teffy, and then straight into Gian. Man, I cannot dodge this run. Let's let's do that again, shall we? We let him kill us real quick so we can start over easier. I can do that. Oh man, he is taking forever. All right, let's go heal up real quick. Come back. Show that again, but better. Alright, so currently we have 0 Concerto energy on Mortefi and Verena. So what we want to do is just use them until they're right about to cap out on their Concerto energy. So just keep an eye on that circle. It's the only thing you need to watch right now. Other than what the boss is doing, of course. Alright, so we're almost maxed. I'm going to switch into Verena. Build up her energy. Alright. So we maxed out Verena here, which is perfectly fine because we've set up Mortefi already, so we're pretty much ready to start the combo here. So we're going to switch from Verena into Mortefi. Do the couple abilities for Mortefi. And then switch directly from him into Gian. So now Gian has a double damage buff. You can see we took away 3/4 of the boss HP extremely quickly. That's all the damage buffs accumulating together into one like massive time whenever we would be on our main DPS. So we'll do it again at a little bit higher difficulty. See that it works the same way. Go into Verena now. She's almost capped. Just want to build up his ultimate energy real quick. His Resonance Liberation. So that we can go straight into it whenever we come into playing with him. Okay. So we're gonna go Mortefi first. Into Verena. That's not what we should have done. We should have done Verena first into Mortefi. I screwed it up, everyone. I done goofed. It's alright. We're just going to build our Concerto energies back up again. Wasting a little bit of time here, but that is completely fine. Alright, so now we've got everyone together. We'll do it in the correct order this time. So Verena into Mortefi. Into Gian. And look at the boss's HP just being completely shredded. And that is all the damage buffs accumulating, coming together to buff your main DPS. And that's even with us screwing around, messing up the rotation, playing sub poorly, like getting hit all the time, all that stuff. Still got a less than 2-minute clear on the level 3 Heron. So it honestly is working extremely well. I think that this is a very good setup for any team if you're able to build them like this. And it allows you for a good 15 to 20 seconds on your main DPS doing just nothing but raw damage after you've swapped through your other 2 characters to build to get all the buffs onto your main character. Now, is there anything else to kind of go over? Like I said, echo sets is something that we'll talk about at a later date. As far as building their forte, now I would recommend for your main DPS to fully unlock their forte. You want to get as much of it as possible because this is the character that is going to be doing all the heavy pulling for you. So you want to have as much damage potential on them as possible. So upgrading all of their abilities, unlocking all of these extra nodes, that's very important to do on your main DPSs. For your sub DPSs and your support characters, and even some of your special characters, you want to pay attention to what the abilities actually do before you buff them up. The main thing that you're using these characters for is to buff your main DPSs. And if you'll look, the main thing that does buffing is going to be their outro skills. Outro skills can't be upgraded. All these other things that you can have the potential of leveling up here. So like the normal attack on Verena. If you look at what the next level does for upgrading all of her stuff, literally the only thing it does is buff damage. This is your support character that is going to be on the field for an extremely low amount of time and is purely meant to either heal your team or buff your team. You don't need to be buffing her damage. This is a pointless thing to upgrade. Save the mats, don't do it. Same thing with resonance skill. Now the resonance skill, even if you wanted to upgrade it purely to generate more energy, it doesn't do that. It doesn't reduce the cooldown. It doesn't generate more energy. The only thing it does is increase the amount of damage it does. There's no point in upgrading it. The Forte circuit does increase the amount of healing that is done, so that is a good one to upgrade. Her first inherent skill here provides yet again another attack buff for the team. So that's going to be 3 attack buffs that you're funneling into your characters, not including your echoes that are also going to be doing the same thing. Her Resonance Liberation again does healing, so upgrading this one is good for the healing portion of it. But then again, intro, nothing but skill damage. So make sure you're paying attention to what the abilities actually do before you go just dumping points into them and wasting materials. Also make sure that you're paying attention to what the abilities actually scale off of. For Verena, all of her healing scales off of her attack. So these attack nodes are very good for her if you're trying to buff the potential healing that she can do, along with the healing bonuses. But if you're giving her stats that are like HP or defense, things like that, those don't actually buff her healing potential in any way. And also like the healing potential that is on a Bellborn, which I have a crit right now because that's the only one I had. Do I have a different one right now? I have a healing bonus one that's on the wrong set. So I don't have a Bellborn that I can put on her, but you would want to be giving her an attack Bellborn because the attack will benefit her damage. Even though it's not very much, it will benefit her damage along with increasing how much she heals for. the healing bonus is not that significant as of an upgrade over attack, whereas attack does 2 things for you. Whereas by Z, your other support is all of her abilities scale off of HP. So for her healing, you're looking at HP here. So you want to be buffing as much HP into her as possible to get the most out of her healing potential. And then same with your like sub DPSs. I leveled up the abilities that will increase the amount of damage that my main DPS can do, and left the other abilities all at 1 to save me materials. You can choose to upgrade these if you want. They are sub DPS, so they do a decent amount of damage, and it will contribute to you downing the boss. But again, your goal is to use these characters to funnel as much damage as possible into your main DPSs. So your main DPS is the character that you should be unlocking everything for, and then using these other ones as a means to get more damage on them. So it is up to you what you want to do, but that's going to be my basic guide to team building. I hope it helps a couple people out. If it does, please make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you on the next one.